Hi, I'm David McKeon, and I'm a dual Olympian, Commonwealth Games Gold Medalist, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Physiocram and Pogo Physio. I'm Brad Beer, physiotherapist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. The aim of this show is to educate and inspire you towards the pursuit of your own physical best performance. We do this through interviews featuring some of the world's top physical performers and also some of the world's preeminent experts in their chosen field. Each week, we'll aim to bring you the highs, the lows, and the learnings of the featured guests. And on today's episode 133, I bring you a recent conversation that I had with Australian swimmer, dual Olympian, and 400-metre freestyle 2018 Commonwealth Games champion David McKeon. And on today's episode, David takes us through his highs, lows, and learnings as they relate to his swimming career. There's been highs, Commonwealth Games Gold Medals, Olympic representation, and there's been lows. David shares openly around the recent shoulder surgery that he had following the 2018 Commonwealth Games and the challenge and the battle that lays before him as he seeks to get back to his best leading into the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. So let's jump right in with David McKeon, dual Australian Olympic swimmer. David McKeon, this is an absolute treat. We've been looking at setting this up for a little while, and we had a little bit of a pause with some shoulder surgery that you had done. But welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, Dave. Great to get to hear the highs and lows and learnings, which are many from your career to date. But let's start with a question that is always a little bit revealing, and that's, what's one thing that David McKeon is learning at the moment?
Right now, I have to say learning to do everything with my left hand is the biggest thing that I've been learning at the moment. In the last 6 weeks, you'd be surprised how, I'm right-hand dominant, so you'd be surprised how many things you have to change just to do everyday life, with one hand being the non-dominant hand. So it's been a pretty tough little change, but I'm starting to use a bit more of the right hand at the moment, so it's exciting.
Exciting is an interesting word choice. I'm sure it's frustrating as well.
It is frustrating at times when even just little things like pulling your pants on or tying up your shoelaces, it can be difficult. Look
at my day-to-day work. David's a physiotherapist, and I often say that injuries are real perspective givers. You know, we take things for granted physically, and then the moment you can't do them, you start to realise how good it is just to do the simple things in life.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Your career, swimming-wise, has been far from simple. You've achieved some outstanding feats, of which we'll touch on. But before we go there, and before you share around your current situation and why you're progressively trying to do more things with your left hand, can you put us in context in terms of where your swimming interest started and what your early days look like?
Well, I learned to swim like most Aussie kids when they were young. Did learn to swim during those early ages of like 5 and under, and then I did a little bit of squads and such till about 10 years old, and then I didn't like swimming at all, not one bit. I actually hated it because I hated the early mornings, and I just didn't have no interest at all. And I I did a lot of other sports. Played rugby union, did a rowing, played basketball for 9 years at school, a little bit of AFL, and then it wasn't until I was about 17 years old I started swimming again, and that's actually a pretty funny story. When I started, actually, was because it was Christmas of 2009, so going into 2010. So I was going into my last year of school, and we were all at our house down the coast of south of New South Wales, and there was a bet between me and my sister of who could swim 400 metres in the fastest time, and I hadn't done any swimming in a long time. I wasn't really the fittest boy. I was definitely didn't look as fit as I do these days, but I bet my sister that I could beat her over 400 metres. The rest of the family thought I was crazy. There's a lot of swimming history in my family, so they knew what they were talking about, and they get to the date was set for February sometime, and I did a little bit of swimming leading up to it with Dad. And I ended up smashing Emma's best time by like 10 seconds. So that's pretty much how I started in getting into the swimming.
And so at 17 years of age, David, that's quite late to start to really, I guess, make a concerted effort at it. And was this when Emma was, obviously your sister Emma McKeon, the Australian Olympic swimmer like yourself, is this when she was fit and fully trained?
So that year she was 15 years old, and she made her first open international team. And I think in December of 2009, she went away to World Short Course, and I think she won a couple of medals, gold medals, silver medals there at World Short Course, and she'd already previously been to the first ever Youth Olympic Games in Singapore that same year. So she was at the top of her game for her age, so yeah.
And what was the time that you swam? Obviously, your current 400 PB is pretty sharp, but what was your time back then?
Yeah, I swam a 4:06, 4 minutes and 6 seconds. I was pretty pleased back then.
And that was off how many sessions a week were you doing at that point? Was this nothing?
From Christmas till about mid-February, I was probably doing like 3 sessions a week.
Yeah, so not much.
Yeah, not much. And then I kind of started taking it a bit more serious after that. Swam a bit more in that last year of school. And by the end of that year, I did all the school swimming, went all through all the levels, and I made it to the last level, Australians. I think it's called the Australian School Nationals or something like that. It was actually up here in Brisbane, and I think I won 4 or 5 gold medals at that. So it was a pretty sharp rise, but it was fun.
And David, going back, what was it in your really early days there? You started around 5. What was going on for there not to be this trajectory? Obviously, you're an incredibly gifted swimmer and athlete. Was the interest not there? What was it that you mentioned AFL had your attention as well? What stopped the classical 5 years of age to 20 years of age, full-time, flat-out type approach for you, David?
It's hard to tell, really. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like getting up early. It's one of the biggest things with swimming. You got to be up at 5 a.m. to be jumping in the water at 5:30 in the morning. And coming from where I trained, coming from Wollongong, it's pretty cold there. I think we're probably the furthest south program in Australia that trains outdoors year round. So it gets pretty cold there in the winter months. So definitely wasn't a swimmer during those winter months at all, and that did not attract me at all to the pool. But I guess I did a lot of basketball, really. That was my main kind of focus. I played basketball twice a week after school, just with the school team, did a little bit of training there. And then when I was about 15, 16, I did rowing for a couple of seasons and a bit of rugby union.
So you were always active, but swimming didn't really become a focus until 17. And were there any swimmers, though, that obviously, I mean, your family's laden with swimming talent, your dad, Ron, who coached you for many years there. He himself competed in 2 Olympic Games, 1980 and 84. I think your uncle medalled in the 1984 Olympics. Your mum, Susie, competed in the 1982 Commonwealth Games in Brisbane. And then obviously, your sibling Emma, one of Australia's great Olympians. So, you were surrounded and were you feeling any expectation once you beat your sister in you swam a 4:06? Did you feel any pressure from anyone, or you were just like, no, I want to pursue this on my own terms now?
No, there was no pressure really. I guess you would think that both my parents would have put a bit of pressure on both me and my sister to swim at a high level. Them both coming from a high level of swimming, but I think that's one of the reasons that me and Emma have kind of have swum and have competed so well internationally, and we've made those high levels because they never put any pressure on us at all, not one bit. At times, Emma's quit about 4 or 5 times since the ages of 15. Like, she didn't swim at all from when she was 15 until I think she swam at the Olympic trials, having 6 weeks of training under her belt because she just wasn't enjoying it, and Mum and Dad didn't bother them. They just do what you want to do and enjoy what you want to enjoy. So that was one of the biggest factors, I think, that in my career, is that my parents never pushed me to do any swimming at all. If I wanted to quit tomorrow, they would not have a problem with them. I wanted to quit tomorrow, they wouldn't have a problem with it at all. And I think there's a lot of parents that get around these days that have their kids, they might be winning medals at 14, 15 years old, and they think they're going to be the next big thing in swimming, and their parents are pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and by the time they're 18 years old, they're done. They've washed up because their parents have just put too much pressure on them. You just need to let them take their own path.
What do you think gives your parents that perspective and that approach to your and Emma's swimming?
Just going through it themselves, I guess. They know how hard it is. I think we've got a very unique situation in our family that no other parents on the Australian team understand swimming like mine do. So they understand what you're going through. They've been at those high levels, so they know that when the time comes to push and to swim at that high level. Yeah,
and nothing like that. Having been there, done it, to be able to guide people through advice.
Yeah.
David, I typically ask featured performers, the guests, where their sporting genes come from.
yeah.
Both, hey? It's fairly evident.
Both, yeah.
And
yes,
a couple of things on your origin story before we move off that onto some career highs. But David, was there any swimmer that grabbed your attention when you were going through your not fully focused years in the pool, and then from 17 years onwards? Were there any swimmers that you admired and aspired to be like?
Well, growing up, we always had the opportunities to be around high-level swimmers. Like my dad has always been a part of he was a part of the Swimming Australian board and stuff like that. So we were always at those big meets. And I remember in 2000, just before the 2000 Olympics, the Pan Pacs was in Sydney, and we stayed at the team hotel with the Australian team, and me and Emma were riding the lifts with Michael Klim, Ian Thorpe, and all the big guys. And my uncle is a big sports manager, and he owns one of the biggest sporting management companies in Australia. So he manages a lot of these guys, and we had the opportunities to meet them and stuff like that. So there was always those guys that those big names that I always looked up to. But I think one person that always comes to mind that I looked up to in my swimming career when it just started and just before would be Josh Minogue, and he's a Australian surf lifesaving champion. He won the Coolangatta Gold back a few years ago, and now he's done a bit of commentating in swimming. He's done the last few Australian championships, and he's definitely put a bit more of a positive spin to the commentating at the Australian championships. Having someone young there, and it's good. So I guess Josh Minogue has been a very big factor that I've looked up to. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's terrific. Everyone needs people that go before them, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And David, you were coached yourself and Emma by your father Ron there out of Wollongong for years until you moved north to go under the guidance of Michael Boll at St Peter's Western and now at Griffith University. What was that transition like in your journey? It must have been, was it difficult? Did you feel a sense of being torn, wanting to stay under Dad's care, or the time had come to take a new approach to your swimming?
Well, Dad has always, from when I made my first Olympic team in 2012, he's always said, you got to move out, you got to go train somewhere else, you got to train with not with him. And it wasn't until about I think it was December of 2013, so after the World Championships, me and Emma and Dad were driving to training, and me and Emma had spoken about it previously a bit that day, and we were like, I think we've got to go somewhere else. We've got to expand our horizons of training. So we just told him in the car, we're like, Dad, I think we're going to go look at training in Brisbane for a couple of weeks in December and do the Queensland States up there, and train with a coach up there and see how it goes, and I guess just see if we enjoy that kind of other coaching other than our father. So we went up to the Queensland States in December and trained for a bit before that and a bit after, and then by January, I think it was like 6th, we'd fully moved up to Brisbane, where we started. Both me and Emma trained under Vince Rayleigh out of the Chandler Swim Club and Aquatic Centre. That's pretty funny, actually. That's where my mum and dad swam the 82 Commonwealth Games, sorry. So we were training in the same pool that they raced in back then. And we both trained under Vince for the years of 2014 and 2015. And Emma moved over to Bowley in 2015, and I followed Emma after the Olympics in 2016.
Oh, okay. Correction then. I'm sorry you didn't go straight to Michael's squad. So so David Vince was involved in there for several years.
Yes, he was.
What was the main difference between being outside of your father Ron's squad and Vince/Michael's?
Well, it wasn't the first time I'd been trained by someone else. When we were in Wollongong for that year of 2013, we had a lot of me and Jared Port did a lot of training with Doug Frost, who is probably, if not the best or one of the best coaches Australia's ever seen, with coaching the best swimmer Australia's ever seen, Ian Thorpe. So we did a lot of training with him. So we had a bit of exposure to other coaches. Doug's a very, very tough man, and a very tough working load that you get from him. So I knew moving away, I wasn't going to struggle with the work or anything like that, have done some of his work. So I guess the transition wasn't too bad at all. It all happened very quickly. So I think that but before I knew it, we were living in Brisbane, and we hadn't really had any time to. It was just like train in Brisbane for a few weeks, have Christmas, New Year's, go back up there, find a place to live, and that's how really it happened. Yeah.
David, you've made multiple Australian teams, lots of career highlights so far. Dual Olympian, Rio Olympic Games. You were a finalist in the 400 free. Came in 7th there. Your first Olympics, 2012 London. You won the Australian titles, the 400 free, and made the 4x200 freestyle relay team. There's a lot, obviously, the Com Games, 2018, gold medalist in the 400 free. But out of everything you've achieved, what would you rate as your greatest career highlight to date, and why?
My greatest achievement, I'll probably have to say, making 2 Olympic Games. It's very hard to make one, and then to make 2 is pretty special. And then I guess that second Olympic Games, being on the team with both Emma and Dad on the same Olympic Games for the same sport is something very much that I'll remember for the rest of my life. That would have to be a highlight. But I guess as a performance, would have to be making that 4x2 relay team in the final in 2016. And then also making the final of the 400 free in 2016 would have to be a highlight of my career for sure.
So Rio, and what's the most memorable race you've ever had?
Most memorable? Probably Commonwealth Games in 2014 was pretty memorable. And then also that 4x2 in 2016. I remember walking out there in 2016, and that crowd was just amazing there. And I guess we swam. all the boys swam pretty awesome. We came so close to getting a medal, and it was pretty special. And I remember, I think I raced Ryan Lochte in that 4x2, and he's one of the best swimmers of all time, behind Michael Phelps in the US, winning so many Olympic gold medals and medals. So to race him in the Olympic Games was pretty memorable.
What was the emotion you were feeling as you walked out and took to the blocks? In a team environment, a relay team, which is a nice change, I guess, from the individual events. What was the emotion, the key emotion you were feeling at that point?
I love the team events. I guess I always seem to find that little bit of extra to swim a bit faster for the boys in the team, and most importantly for Australia. The emotion. I was definitely nervous. You got to perform for the boys. You don't want to let the rest of the team down. And I ended up splitting one of the fastest times, or probably the fastest time I've ever done in a relay, and one of the fastest times between the four boys. Yeah.
What was your 200 free split?
I think it was 1:45.6.
So 1:45.6. And David, to put perspective around your abilities, what are your current 200, 400 freestyle PBs are? What?
3:43.7 and 1:46.3.
And on Australian all-time lists, I believe your 400 time puts you well inside the top 10. What about your 200? Where do you sit on those lists?
Think about the 200, I might be 6th or 7th.
Yep.
And the 400, I'm 4th.
Sensational. Yep. And then obviously your Commonwealth Games swim. Let's shift over to some challenging times. Your preparation for the Commonwealth Games 400 freestyle victory was marred with the shoulder pain, of which you've now recently had surgery for just 6 weeks ago at the time of this recording. So what's been the darkest day, David, of your swimming career to date?
I'd say that was pretty tough to get through. I guess I've had this injury to say for quite some time, first feeling pain in October of 2017, but it could have been there for my dad reckons it's actually been there since I was in Wollongong, so a fair few years ago, the very early stages of the injury. So to finally get an answer to that, and then I guess October last year when I started to feel a bit of pain through my shoulder, and then not really knowing what was wrong with it, getting a fair few scans after the trials in the Commonwealth Games trials in February, and then a few more scans after the Commonwealth Games, and a few cortisone injections around those times, and then I guess do a little bit of a gradual load in the month of June to get into mid-July to find out that I've got a significant tear in my right shoulder where the muscle has come off the bone. It was pretty tough to wrap my head around, I guess. But then that all kind of really happened very quickly. When I found out, I was booked in the next day to see the surgeon down in Melbourne, and I flew down there a week later, talked to him, and then flew back, I guess, a week later to have the surgery. So that was a very, very quick time, and I think that's the best way to do it. Like if I as soon as I found out, I step by step just got the next thing done, and that was the way I moved myself away from feeling doubt and negativity around the injury.
You mentioned it was tough to wrap your head around. What was tough about it?
Just like the unknown of because I kind of found out late on a Wednesday night, and I was at home by myself, and I had no one around at that time, and until my girlfriend Cassie came home. So it was hard to just, I don't know, thinking of what's going to happen, what's the next kind of move to do. So that Wednesday night was a bit tough, but after that I was fine. Yeah.
And you mentioned removing the doubt and the negativity. It's only natural that those things immediately creep in, particularly when your career is your physical function. And I always say, as my work as a physiotherapist, yeah, sure, we help people with pain, but their main concerns are the frustrations, anxieties, and fears. So were you fearful at that point that, you might never get back to the level that you were, or you always had some deep faith and hope that you'd be okay?
There was always a little bit of it's hard. Like, I guess I always knew I'd be okay, but there's always that fear, that thing in the back of your mind saying, well, you don't know. But the biggest thing for me was when I was actually sat down with Greg, my surgeon, and he was absolutely fantastic. He just told me how it was, and he was very positive, and he said that if you do all the things right, the first 6 weeks you're in the sling and you're slowly progressing, you're doing some very, very minor shoulder exercises, that you will get back to 100% by around 9 to 12 months.
But leading into the Com Games, you were battling your preparation with the pain. I mean, describe the pain that you were dealing with. What was it like day to day with your sessions?
The day to day, I wouldn't be able to finish a full session, really. Very weak in that right arm, not holding water through the front of my stroke. There was months and months and months of just not having any strength at all in that right arm. I could do exercises in the gym. I wouldn't be able to lift heavy weights or anything like that. It'd be too painful, and then it would also then transfer into the water, that I'd be sore because of lifting heavy in the gym and then being too sore to swim. So it was a very frustrating time through that period. It was more just the unknown of I hadn't really had a scan until after the Commonwealth Games trials, so that was when they found that there was a bit of muscle. I think there was like a bit of muscle tendinopathy in the subscap tendon. So then it was then they kind of just adjust my workload between the Commonwealth Games trials and the Commonwealth Games just to get through, and then we just kind of seen what could happen at the Commonwealth Games. And I was very happy to be part of the team, and then to perform the way I did. I was probably swimming with one arm, really, having no strength in my right arm, and that's my dominant arm, and I breathe to my right side and everything like that. So to perform the way I did with one arm, I was pretty happy with that.
Well, you took the gold medal, David, with one arm, so that's very impressive. It was one of the first swims. It might have even been the first medal swim, was it, of the Commonwealth Games? I remember being over at the triathlon when I think you were swimming, and hearing the stands just go nuts.
It was pretty cool. It's always the first night or the first day the 400 freeze on. So it's and then I made a decision after that 400 free. When I didn't go so well, that I'd pull out of the relay and not put my hand up for that being injured, and after I knew that there was definitely something wrong with my shoulder.
You're listening to David McKeon, dual Australian Olympic swimmer and 400-metre freestyle Commonwealth Games 2018 champion, sharing around his highs, lows and learnings of his swimming career to date. Support for today's show comes from PhysioCrem. PhysioCrem is a topical massage cream containing natural plant-based ingredients, ideal for the temporary relief of muscular aches and pains. If you're conscious of what you put on your body, then you'll be happy to know that PhysioCrem does not contain parabens or hydroxybenzoates. It is clean to use and pleasant smelling, with the smell fading away in minutes. Its non-greasy formula doesn't leave any sticky residue behind. PhysioCrem can be found at chemists and health stores Australia-wide, as well as their online shop. They're offering listeners of the Physical Performance Show 20% off all products by simply using the code POGO, that's POGO, over at physiocrem.com.au. Hurting sucks, and PhysioCrem have got your back. Support for today's show also comes lovingly from Pogo Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through the doors of Pogo Physio to complete their rehabilitation, get back to their physical best and cross their physio finish line in the process. We do this through traditional session-to-session appointments, but also through our industry-first, unique 2, 6 and 12-week fixed fee, unlimited access finish line programs, and our super popular monthly fixed fee Wellness Booster packs. The Wellness Booster packs include hands-on physiotherapy, remedial massage therapy, active rehabilitation including clinical Pilates, and use of state-of-the-art equipment such as the Alta G anti-gravity treadmill, all from a low $195 health unrebatable per month. To find out more about Pogo Physio services or to schedule your 1-hour initial appointment, be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au. But for now, let's jump back in the water with David McKeon as he shares on his highs, lows and learnings. And David, what percentage of output were you outputting in training leading into the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast here in 2018? Like, was it 50% you're able to get done, 60%, 70%?
Probably 50 to 60% of training, yeah.
Yeah.
I was always turning up for all the sessions. I would be there 15 minutes early to do all my shoulder exercises to make sure that it'd be ready for the session. But I guess just I wasn't able to hit the times that I used to be able to hit leading in, and there was sessions that were very good, but then there was obviously those sessions that my arm would be very sore for a couple of days after because of pushing it so hard.
And I mean, it must be psychologically it's challenging getting up on the blocks to race a major international meet representing your country on home soil, knowing that you've only been able to prepare at 50, 60, whatever percentage.
I didn't really tell anyone about my shoulder injury. I didn't tell anyone from the public until after the games had finished, really, that I was having a bit of difficulty with my right shoulder. I kind of kept it all under wraps just to, I guess I don't want to make that as an excuse or or take the focus away from anyone else or take the focus away from being at home games or anything like that. So I kind of just let it run with the flow kind of thing. And then even with the surgery, really, I didn't really tell anyone that I was having surgery until after it had been completed, just to, I don't know, keep it under wraps. And I think some people go to think the wrong thing sometimes when you say you've got an injury or something like that. So, yeah. Have
you had any, that's such a mature and I believe, really principled approach is to, I think there's some real wisdom in discretion around your physical fitness and state leading to competitions. And I do think it actually honours your competition to go in and do your best, whatever the circumstances are. And off the back of it, tell the story of where you are. And that's exactly what you've done. But where does that character come from? Like, that's very wise, well beyond your years and a maturity that's not always seen. Where do you think that comes from, David? Your approach?
I guess from my dad. I remember my dad telling me something once. He says, you got to always respect your competitors, but when you get in there and race them, you got to respect them to race them. You don't fall over because they might have a faster time, and you just got to walk around pool deck. You have respect, and then when you get in there, you have respect by racing hard, and that's what I do. I always try to have respect for everyone else around me, and I guess from when people perform well, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's such a nice approach. Before we move off your rehabilitation, what does your rehabilitation look like at the moment? You're 6 weeks. You're about to come out of the sling, I suspect.
You're just out of it on Monday, so yeah.
Oh, you just come out of the sling?
Yeah, just out on Monday. Yeah, Monday just gone, so yeah.
And attending physiotherapy a couple of times a week. What does it look like for you?
So I have physio once a week, and I go to the gym at the QAS, and with my gym coach, Will Brown, and I'm in there 3 times a week for about 2 hours each morning. And then I do my own thing at home on a Tuesday, Thursday. But it's only early days, really. That first 6 weeks, I've always been told, is the most critical that you have to say, really. You don't want to do too much, but then not enough, because you can have muscle wastage. But it's been progressing well. Just today, I got a few more exercises to do, and I can lift my hand above my nearly above my head with the help of my left hand. Can't quite get it past shoulder level doing it by myself on my right, but it'll get there. And I think in about 12 weeks, post 12 weeks of surgery, so another 6 weeks, I should be able to get a fair bit of motion and maybe be able to lift my arm above my head. But it's pretty good because I don't have to put the washing on the line. Yeah,
nice. Got a good out for that. And with less than 2 years, looking ahead to the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, obviously making your third Australian Olympic teams on the radar there. Do you feel a sense of pressure to make each day count, or are you quite relaxed about the fact that you've got plenty of time?
I'm pretty relaxed, really. I think. It still was like 18 months or so to go. And it works in my favour having the trials that now moved from 3 months out to, I think, 5 weeks out. So that's definitely a positive for me because the full rehab is about 12 months to get my shoulder back to pre-injury, sorry. So I think, and I'm excited to get to there, and I think that if I can get to there, I can definitely be on the cards to get back to my best times, which I haven't swum in quite a little while, and then or even do PBs. So
that shift in trials, as you say, should definitely aid your Tokyo 2020 ambitions. Dave, let's do a performance round. So you ready? The highs, the lows, the learn-ins. Here come the learn-ins. So this can be a session for the day on top of the physiotherapy and gym you've already done. Couple of rapid-fire questions. David McKeon, what is the training session you most dislike?
The most disliked training session would have to be probably sometimes recovery is pretty disliked on a Friday afternoon. Recovery training session. Yeah, Friday afternoon because everyone else is off. And I'm the only one in there, not most of the time, yeah.
Training session you most love?
Most loved, Wednesday morning.
What's the session? What might it
be? The session is normally, it's pretty chilled on a Wednesday morning because we've, the way that Bowley's weeks work, it's pretty much get smashed Monday, Tuesday for those 4 sessions and in the gym on Monday morning, and then Wednesday morning's pretty chilled, and then we do gym after Wednesday morning, but then you've got the rest of the day off, and that's really the only weekday that I have the afternoon off. So it's always it's a good day to do something else, and I get down the beach, go out for breakfast after training. So that's probably my favourite session for the week. Yeah.
Brilliant. Favourite pre-race meal?
Lasagna.
Bedtime and morning time, what's that typically look like?
Bedtime at night when I'm in training, 8:30 to 9, and then I wake up in the morning at about Bowley sessions get there at 6, so I wake up at about 5:30 or just before 5:30. But I've had many years of get in the water at 5:30, so you have to be up and going at 4:45. So yeah.
So it's a nice slight relax on that start time. Who's the athlete that David McKeon most admires and why?
I'd have to say back to earlier on, Josh Minogue. He's just got such good character about him, and he's always very positive. And he's an all-round great bloke, I think, yeah.
Toughest competitor you've ever raced, David? Who and why?
Toughest competitor I've ever raced. But I haven't raced him, but I was in the same relay when we were racing them, probably Phelps. And I think that speaks for itself, really. Yeah.
And that was the 2016 Olympic Games?
Yes, that was the 2016 Olympic Games, yeah. So, what was he at that time? 32 years old. So, never gives up.
Brilliant. Your best recovery tip?
Most definitely sleep. Yeah, sleep and, yeah.
Is there a mantra that David McKeon uses when he races? What is it?
A mantra?
Self-talk.
As in self-talk,
some consistent self-talk.
I wouldn't say I do much self-talk, really. I guess I'm always backing myself, and if I know I've done the training and I've backed my training, then I know I'll swim well. Yeah.
One word to describe your racing style?
I guess I've always gone out hard in the 400 and try to have a fast split through the first 200. So I'd say very much a front to middle racer, like in that middle region of the race, yeah.
So front to middle racer, we'll go with that. How many words is that? 3. We'll pass. We'll pass on that. We'll give you a tick. Well done. How would you describe David being in the zone?
Like the flow, the zone at the flow. You think? It feels effortless.
Effortless.
being in the zone, yeah, like when you're racing and you do such a good swim, it's effortless, and sometimes you just can't even remember how it went because it was just so, like, it just happened because you've just done it every single day for 4 years, and it's effortless, really, yeah.
When was the last time, David, you were in that zone?
Probably last year at the World Championships.
And last question here in the performance round. What's the hardest session, David, you've ever done?
The hardest session I've ever done? I've done a few, like, big 9 to 10K sessions. They're pretty hard mentally, I'd say. But then I've also done some big, like, main sets of a session that's like just the main set by itself was like 5.7K. So that was a pretty tough session. That was like 9 400s, and I think it was like 3 and then some 1650s and then another 3 and then 1250s and then another 3 and then 850s with 100 easy in between. I think that was probably one of the hardest physical sessions, but the hardest mental session would have to be those big 9 to 10K sessions.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Some serious work there. Still on the learnings, David, if you could boil everything you've learnt through your sporting career to date down to one piece of advice to help listeners of this show perform at their physical best, what would David McKeon, dual Australian Olympic swimming representative's single piece of advice be?
You have to enjoy what you're doing. I think that's the main thing. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it, and that's very evident in my early years of growing up that I didn't enjoy swimming, so I didn't do it. So I think that if I didn't enjoy it now, I still wouldn't be doing it. So I think that enjoyment is the number one key in anything you do.
And what do you enjoy about it now? Obviously, aside from the injury rehabilitation, which but what does David McKeon enjoy about swimming in the current era?
I guess I enjoy I enjoy the friendships that I have within swimming, and I enjoy pushing myself and seeing how far I can push my body to perform at a high level. I enjoy the lifestyle of training. I enjoy I enjoy swimming, really. I enjoy swimming up and down. And a lot of people say, how do you enjoy swimming up and down, staring at that black line? And I say, like, you're never actually thinking and looking at that black line. You're thinking about what you're doing.
You're listening to David McKeon, 400-metre freestyle champion from the 2018 Commonwealth Games and dual Australian Olympic representative, sharing around his highs, lows and learnings from his swimming career to date. If you missed last week's episode, it was an expert edition featuring return guest of the show, Dr. Rich Willey. Now, it was an expert edition which was focused entirely on the Masters or over 40-year runner. If you missed it, here's a little snippet.
Then I was having them, return to running. A lot of those are going to be walk-run programs where they're maybe doing a walk-run session on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Even though the overall workload is low, they're really stressing themselves. But what I was making a mistake of then doing their strength training. I was having to do their strength training on the non-running days, and I just felt like when I made that change, like what you just described, to add the strength training on the same day that they were doing the running on these return to run programs, it made a world of difference for the runner as far as their ability to tolerate and try to get back to their running in a relatively seamless manner.
Be sure to jump back, tune into the full episode, and while there, explore the archives of the Physical Performance Show. For now, let's jump back to David McKeon sharing around his highs, lows and learnings. What's on the bucket list, David, inside sport and outside of sport?
I guess at the moment I'm doing a bit of swim coaching and learning to be a swim coach. So I'm looking at maybe going down that road later when I finish swimming in my career. So that would be post-swimming. But I guess, just to enjoy life. Yeah.
And you've recently just announced on Instagram there at David McKeon that yourself, Emma, and your father, Ron, you've just launched the McKeon Swim Clinic. And you can follow that over at McKeon Swimming on Instagram. What's the the purpose of that and what are you looking to achieve through that? It's quite an exciting initiative to have three very, very well-credentialed swimmers team up for an initiative like that.
Yeah, well, I've talked to mum and dad about it for a little while now, and I guess you can't really get much more experience than what we've got, and to have three of us on the Olympic team, and on Olympic teams, I think we've been on to 5 between us. So there's nothing like that in Australia really with to do with swimming and to do with high level sport with one family. So I think we're excited to share our story and to share how we got to these levels, and just to give back to the swimming community. And we're going to start with our first clinic and see how it goes in our hometown of Wollongong at our swim school, at the McKeon Swim School. And we've opened it up to about 100 kids, 50 on each of the sessions at the moment. I think we're probably about 60 to 70% full, and it's filling very quickly. And we've already had a lot of inquiries to run clinics elsewhere in Australia. So we're going to look to go down that road in the near future. And it's a little project that I've been working on since I haven't been doing as much swimming. So I'm excited about it, and it's going to be fun. Yeah.
What excites you about getting into that sort of role?
I guess it's good to. I enjoy sharing my story, and I enjoy helping kids to learn the correct technique for swimming. And there's a lot of kids out there that go to swim schools that aren't teaching the right techniques and things like that. So I think that from our swim school, one of the best in Australia, and definitely considering that my freestyle technique and Emma's freestyle and butterfly technique is definitely world class. And we've come through that swim school. It's definitely we've got a lot of tips to show and tips to share with kids, and we're going to get down the future when I get my swimming ability back again. I'll be getting in the water and doing the demonstrations as well. But at this first clinic in Wollongong, Emma's going to be doing most of and all the demonstrations. And we're also going to have my youngest sister, Caitlin, there. She works at our swim school, so she's going to be there doing a bit of the helping out with the rest of because there's about 50 kids per session, so that's a lot of kids for the three of us to handle. So I've got my younger sister, Caitlin, also down there doing a bit of coaching as well.
Fantastic. And just briefly, David, there's a lot more to it than three tips, but what are the 3 characteristics you think are most important for a good freestyle stroke for those that are listening? That are wanting to improve their swimming, their freestyle, triathletes, etc.
Yeah, definitely. I always have so much length in my stroke, and each length of stroke is probably about close to 3 meters. So that's one arm is pulling 3 meters of water through I guess. So I'd say length, and then I've always learned there's this thing. It's called getting over the barrel with your freestyle stroke with pulling under the water. So pulling over a barrel like sense when you're swimming, and having a high elbow. So that'll be my 3: length, pulling over the barrel, and having a high elbow when you are recovering through the stroke.
And we'll all swim like David McKeon, and that would be brilliant. 343, 400. No, absolutely great. Thanks for sharing those. David, every guest of the Physical Performance Show issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. What is your physical challenge for the week going to be? Physical challenge for the week.
So I guess my background being swimming and there's probably a lot of triathletes out there. I sometimes enjoy doing short rest in training, and I think short rest is one of the biggest things that can get you fit. If you try to do as many cycles of hundreds on the fastest short rest cycle that you can, so try to aim for, I'm not really sure, but I do short rest when I'm swimming well on like 105 cycle to 110 cycle. But I guess other people 120 to 130, 140 maybe. Then so just try to, I guess, start off with 10 100s on the quickest short rest that you can do. I'd say that would be my challenge for the week.
Fantastic. It's very, very practical. And if you take it on, do let David know. You can find you where online, David, over on Instagram?
Yep, sure thing.
Yep, at David McKeon.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
No, that's fine. Yep. David, the personality question, always a lot of fun. 3 people at your dinner table. Who's at David McKeon's dinner table? They can be living or past. Who's there and why?
I'd have to say Muhammad Ali. Always a one to have on the dinner table. I guess he's a never say die character. He's always got the best like comebacks, the best slogans and things like that. And he's and such. Some other people. Will Smith, actually, I've been watching a bit of Will Smith's YouTube channel. It's been very funny. He's a very funny character, and the way he looks at life and goes about his life and the things that he's done is pretty cool. And just to chat to him would be awesome. And then I'd have to say a basketball player, Kobe Bryant. I was lucky enough to meet Kobe in 2012. Actually shared a car ride with him back from the training venue in Manchester for the pre-Olympic Games, where the American basketball team was staying at the same hotel as the Australian swimming team. So he came to the pool to watch a bit of the swimming, and I missed the bus home, and he was still there, and I was like, "Oh, can I just get a lift back?" And he said, "No worries, just jump in." And the only thing I was told was I couldn't sit in this one spot in the bus or in the car because that's where Kobe sat, and it was all good. It was good fun.
What a great story. And did you engage in any conversation, David, with Kobe?
Yeah, we spoke. There was a couple of things we spoke about I wouldn't mention on air, but we spoke about training, and we spoke about the Olympics and things like that. It was a while ago now, so I can't actually really remember what we spoke about specifically, but it was definitely something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I've actually got it in my calendar that it comes up each year, that the day I went riding with Kobe. So that's pretty funny, yeah.
Have you got a photo? You grabbed a selfie with him?
I did get a photo, actually. I was swimming because Dad was there at the time in Manchester at the staging camp, and I was swimming up and down, and I saw him walk in, and I was like, "Dad, I got to get out to get a photo." And I was like mid-session, and then Dad's like, "No," and I was like, "God, once in a lifetime, Dad, I'm getting out." So I just jumped out, got a photo, and Dad, being a dad, he thought he was real trendy and cool, and took a photo with the camera on its side, thinking that was a cool thing to do. And so I got a couple of sideways photos for my memories. Yes.
Have you got? Can we share those in the show notes? Have you got them up on Instagram?
I may do, but I can send them through.
Yeah, we'll pop those up, and you got to. Sometimes it's exasperating. You get a moment of a photo with someone you admire, and your head gets cut off, or your body gets left behind. I don't know if I've got the sideways ones anymore. I think I might have straightened it up a bit, but I've definitely got a photo. Brilliant. We'd love to put that in the show notes, David. And finally, a few final questions here. Finish the sentences. The most important thing in life is
happiness and enjoyment.
Is there a word that guides your life?
To work hard.
What drives you to work hard?
Drives me to work hard. Success.
Where does pressure come from?
Pressure from inside. No, I don't really feel much pressure externally most of the time, but most of it is internal pressure.
And David, finally, what mistakes are you afraid of making?
I'm afraid of making the mistake of getting back into swimming fast and hard too early with my shoulder, because I want it to be right. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah, David McKeon, thank you for spending time with us today on the Physical Performance Show. And certainly I'll be following your journey with great interest leading into Tokyo 2020 and beyond. And certainly wish you all the very best with the rehabilitation that's ahead of you. It's still only early days, 6 weeks at the time of recording, with a long way to go. But I think you're an outstanding young Australian. So, David, well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show.
So there you have it. Another episode of the Physical Performance Show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, then please let both myself and David know over on social media. I'm at Brad_beer on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll find David over on Instagram at David McKeon. That's McKeon. If you know someone that would enjoy today's episode, then please consider sharing it with them right from your smartphone or listening device. A big thanks to the good folk who have been reviewing the show on iTunes. Reviews help the Physical Performance Show to get into the earbuds of more people who, just like yourself, are looking to pursue and perform at their physical best. So massive thanks. A big thanks in particular to Miss D 2018, who rated the show 5 stars and commented, "Just started listening to the Physical Performance Show recently and absolutely loving it. So much information and knowledge from each episode, not just about the sport, but also on the health aspect. Specifically the interview with Pete Jacobs, as I feel the same effects of having an inflamed gut. Thank you so much, and this show has definitely changed the way I look after myself to be at my best." Miss D, thank you for taking the time to leave the review, and as a little way of saying thanks, do drop me a message over on social media, and we'll be sure to get you out a copy of the Amazon Running and Jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free, now in its second revised and expanded edition. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe if you're enjoying the Physical Performance Show, and that will ensure that each episode lands on your device each and every week as they go live around a Thursday evening. A big thanks to the good folk who make this show possible. That is the team of Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Matthew Olding, graphic design, and Susan Wilkin on all things show administration. Another big thanks to our show supporter for today, PhysioCram. Now be sure to jump over to the Physical Performance Show Instagram gallery, that's at Physical Performance Show, and there leave your details, your name and email via visiting the URL link, and you will go into the draw to win a terrific PhysioCram prize pack. And don't forget to jump over to physiocram.com.au and redeem your 20% off any of the fantastic PhysioCram products. Keep the podsies coming. That is the screenshot of the episode that you're enjoying, tagging in at Physical Performance Show and or myself at Brad_beer. I get a real buzz out of seeing where the show is being enjoyed, which episode, and what you're up to as you're enjoying listening. So thank you for keeping the podsies coming. Now next week, we keep the featured performer theme going, and I have a chat with Richard Thompson, Australian Ultraman. So this is further than an Ironman triathlon champion, Richard, as he is just weeks away from taking on the World Ultraman Championships in Hawaii. And take a listen to this. What does an Ultraman include? Well, it's a 3-day Mecca, a 320-mile journey, or 515 kilometers, comprising of 6.2 miles of swimming, 261.4 miles of cycling, and an incredible 52.4 miles of running. So you'll really enjoy next week's episode. It's a fascinating look into the world of ultra endurance with Richard Thompson. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.